It was sold to the world as an Arctic science station. The real plan was to hide nuclear missiles under the ice, moving them through tunnels the enemy could never map. Then the glacier itself killed the idea. This is Camp Century, a United States Army base built not on the ice in Greenland, but inside it. 300 feet beneath the surface, the Army carved a city out of a glacier. And at its heart, they ran a nuclear reactor. Roughly 200 men lived down there. They had quarters, a hospital, a kitchen, a working community under millions of tons of ice. The official reason was research, but research doesn't usually need a cover story, and this one did. To understand why, you have to go back to the late 1950s. The Cold War was at its coldest. Both superpowers were racing to put nuclear missiles anywhere the other side couldn't reach them, under the sea, in the air, and, the Army hoped, under the ice. Greenland sat directly between Moscow and Washington. Whoever controlled that ice controlled the shortest path a missile could take. So in 1959, construction began. The Army cut long trenches into the ice, roofed them, and let the snow bury them. Inside, they installed a portable nuclear reactor to power the whole base, a small atomic plant running in the dark beneath a glacier. Officially, the men studied ice and Arctic construction. They drilled deep cores that decades later would genuinely help climate science. That part was real. But behind the research was a second purpose, a classified one. And it raises the question almost no one asks about this place. Did the United States really build a secret nuclear base under the Greenland ice? And what was it actually for? Here's why this matters now and not just as a Cold War footnote. Because whatever they left down there didn't disappear. It's still in the ice. And the ice is changing. If you want the part of this story almost no one covers, what's happening to that base today and why scientists are worried, subscribe and stay with me. Here's what's next. In recent years, peer-reviewed research has warned that as Greenland's ice sheet melts, the waste left behind at Camp Century could one day be exposed again. Not just scrap metal, chemical, biological, and radiological material frozen in place since the 60s. The men who left assumed the ice would hold it forever. The whole point of the place was that the ice never moved. They were wrong about that, in more ways than one. Which brings us back to the real plan. The one with a name. It was called Project Iceworm. The concept was audacious, a vast network of tunnels under the Greenland ice, through which nuclear missiles could be shuttled and hidden. If the missiles were always moving, the Soviets could never know exactly where they were. They couldn't target what they couldn't find. Camp Century, in this telling, was the proof of concept, the testbed. But there was a problem that had nothing to do with engineering. Greenland wasn't American soil. It was Danish territory, and here the record gets genuinely murky. How much Denmark truly knew about the nuclear and missile dimension of the project is still debated by historians today. It is not a settled question, so let's be careful with it. What's documented is that the full purpose was classified, and that when elements of it surfaced decades later, it became a point of diplomatic friction. What exactly was disclosed, and to whom at the time, that remains disputed. Now to the part that decided everything. Because Iceworm was never undone by a spy or a treaty or a politician. It was undone by the ice itself. A glacier is not solid ground. It moves. It flows, slowly, constantly under its own weight. And the tunnels the Army had carved began to deform. The ceilings sagged. The walls closed in. You cannot hide a stable missile network inside something that is slowly crushing itself. The engineering assumption at the very center of the plan, that the ice would stay put, was simply false. And so, within just a few years, the dream collapsed with the tunnels. The base was abandoned in the 1960s. The reactor was removed. But not everything left with the men. They took what was valuable and walked away from the rest. They left it where it was, certain the ice would keep their secret indefinitely. Stand on that spot today and you'd see nothing. No tunnels, no buildings, just white in every direction. The city is still down there. You just can't see it. So let me answer the questions you might actually be typing into a search bar. Did the US hide nuclear missiles under Greenland? No, and that distinction is everything. The missiles were never deployed. Iceworm was a plan. An ambitious, fully serious plan that failed before it became reality. There is no buried arsenal under the ice. What's down there is the base, and what the base left behind. And what about the danger now? Here's the honest answer. Scientists have raised a credible, peer-reviewed concern that a warming climate could eventually re-expose the waste at the site. But the exact amount of material and exactly when it might surface is not something anyone can state with precision. The estimates carry real uncertainty. Anyone who gives you a confident date is guessing, and that's the part that lingers. The ice was chosen because it hides things. The whole strategy depended on it. Now that same ice is the only thing standing between the modern world and what the Cold War buried there. Think about the irony for a moment. They built a secret inside a glacier because they believed glaciers were permanent. The defining mistake of the project, the moving ice, is now the defining threat of its aftermath. The thing that killed the plan is the thing that may one day reveal it. We don't know precisely what the coming decades will pull back out of that ice. That's not a dramatic flourish, it's just the truth. The record is incomplete, and the timeline belongs to the climate, not to us. A nuclear city, built to hide a weapon that never came, abandoned and waiting. Camp Century is one of the few Cold War secrets where the ground itself decided the outcome. But it isn't the only place the military trusted a landscape to keep a secret, and was proven wrong. If a city under a glacier sounds impossible, wait until you see what they tried to bury somewhere far less stable. That's the next file. Subscribe and you'll be here when we open it. Some things were never meant to surface. We're going to look anyway.